Knowing who I am creates a standard in me. I will not accept anything lower than who I am. You don't have your own internal standard of what you think is right, what is acceptable. You will mirror your standards with the world. A person with standards has no problem with leaving or being left. And one thing about men is that they actually respect a woman that says no to them. Men don't like easy women. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Hope you guys are doing well. I want to first start off by saying shout out to you guys for going crazy on my last video. You guys went crazy on the likes, you guys went crazy on the comments, you guys went crazy on the views. So thank you guys so much. In that video, I did say that I was going to speak on how to have rock solid standards and how to enforce your boundaries. So today, that is what we are going to be talking about. But as always, I've got something for y'all. Hey guys! As many of you can see, I have been on quite an intense diet as I have dropped the weight, as you can see. I'll tell you guys about that a little later. However, because I have been eating a lot less than usual, I'm finding that I'm not getting the nutrients that I need in my body. And my friends keep saying, Breeny, you need to get some vitamins, you need to take some supplements. And I'm like, oh my God. I don't know about you guys, but I really hate having to take multiple vitamins because I hate like having to swallow it. However, I was recently introduced to these bad boys. These are from a company called Ritual. So Ritual is the obsessively researched multivitamin that is reimagining health from the ground up. And it takes all of the guessing out of finding the right vitamins for you. The best thing about these is that I only need to take 2 per day, and it works wonderfully on an empty stomach, which is good for me because I'm always intermittent fasting in the morning. So it's gentle on an empty stomach. One of my favorite things about this is it does not have the horrible vitamin smell. They literally have a mint inside, and it keeps all of the vitamins smelling minty fresh. They contain 9 high quality nutrients from D3 to omega-3 that are really difficult to get enough of every day, even with a healthy diet. They are vegan, gluten-free, non-GMO, allergen-free, and contains absolutely no sugar for those who are on a keto diet. But better health does not happen overnight. And right now, Ritual is offering you 20% off of your first month. So you guys can fill in the gaps in your diet with essentials for women. And this is just a small step that supports a healthy foundation for your body, because as we know, health is wealth, and you never really realize that until it's gone. So you get 20% off of your first month by going to the link in my description box below and using my code at the checkout, which is now on the screen right here. All right, guys, let's get back into it. So there's a few angles I could take this video with, and I am going to be speaking to dating, I'm going to be speaking to relationships, but you can apply it to whether it's family, friends, whoever you have to set standards and create boundaries with. You can apply to anybody. But I'm going to specifically be talking about the dating streets and basically how not to be taken advantage of. Someone said in my last video that a moral of the story was don't be easy. And ultimately, I think there are a lot of men getting away with a lot of things because we are making it too easy for them. A way not to be easy is to have standards, but not only to have standards, but to actually stick by them. I feel like some people don't struggle with having standards. They have trouble with enforcing those standards when it comes to it. And I've found with a lot of people, even myself, I can have these high standards, but I know inside me, if let's say there's a season where I've been feeling super lonely, or I feel unseen or unlovable or invalidated, and someone came along that did not measure up to my standards, but they were showing me the attention that I needed at the time, I would actually drop my standards in order to accommodate them, and I would end up getting hurt. So if that has been your experience, I have come here I've come here to help you guys today. Now, I'm going to kind of use the term standards and boundaries interchangeably, but to be honest, they're kind of similar. They're kind of the same thing. But I will start off by saying that a standard is the bare minimum, right? It's the minimum requirement, okay? So let's say that you went for a job interview and they were like, the standard is that you must wear this uniform. That is our policy. Our standard is for some companies, you can't have your hair in certain hairstyles, like colors or whatever. That's a whole nother story. But companies have standards of, conduct. They have standards of dressing. They have standards, right? And so the standard is the minimum, right? It's the minimum that they will accept. Standard is just the base level where everybody is protected, right? If a company were to lower their standards, it will go against everything that they believe in. So I think it's important that we understand what a standard is, okay? So when it comes to dating or relationships or relating to someone of the opposite sex, a standard is who you are, what you desire, what is acceptable and what is unacceptable. This is a standard, right? So let's start off with who you are, okay? So ultimately, we all have value, right? We have value because God has given us value, period. But the problem is a lot of us don't know that we're valuable. We don't know how valuable we are. We don't know our worth. We don't know our value, right? And so from that place of knowing who you are, you know what you want, desire, what you need in order to feel safe and in order to feel protected. Having standards as well tells people what is acceptable and what is also unacceptable. If you don't have a moral compass or a firm understanding and belief of what is right, what is suitable, what is meant to be, like for example, some people don't actually have a rock solid understanding of what love truly is. They didn't see it growing up. They haven't experienced it. They don't have people in their life that truly love them, that truly respect them. So you get with someone and you meet someone and their idea, the person's idea of love is actually abuse. It's being nonchalant. It's being laid back because maybe that's the way that they saw their father loving their mother. It was just, well, I'm here, aren't I? When you ask them, but do you love me? He'll say, oh, I'm here, aren't I? Right? Because their standard or their idea of love is what they've seen with their parents. So people have standards based on what they know and what they're aware of. They have standards based on their upbringing. They have standards based on what they see around them. And the problem with our generation is that the standards in general for women are very, very low, right? So if you don't have your own internal standards, if you don't have your own internal morals, you'll look around and want to emulate the standards of those around you, whether that's your friends, whether that's your peers, whether that's the people that you talk to or the people on social media or the celebrities that you look up to. You don't have your own internal standard of what you think is right, what is acceptable. You will mirror your standards with the world, with society, with social media. And that is a sure way to get yourself in a lot of trouble because you do not know whether that is a good standard or not. And just because 10,000 people like this comment or 10,000 people like this post does not mean that's what that person is doing, what that person is accepting is actually right. So that's why it's important to know who you are and call it ego, call it arrogance, call it she thinks she's too this, she thinks she's too that. I don't give a damn. Knowing who I am creates a standard in me that I will not accept anything lower than who I am. When it comes to dating, when it comes to relationships, knowing who you are is number one. Knowing what you want and what you desire is number two. It's so important that we know what we are looking for so that when it comes along, we can judge what we want and what we desire with what has presented itself to us. Without your standards, call it a list, call it whatever, without knowing what you want and what you need and what you desire, anyone can come along. There is no standard. There's nothing to judge this person if you are not aware of what you want, need and desire in a person. And what you want and what you need can sometimes be different. A lot of times we're putting what we want before what we need. I may need someone that is supportive in the way that is verbal. I need them to be consistently supportive, as in every single conversation. You may need someone that's supportive, but they don't need to tell you all the time. They don't need to be with you for everything. Do you know what I mean? So that knowing what you need is going to be different from what I need. It's going to be different from what she needs because it's going to be different from what she needs. And it's important that you know what you need and become what you want in order to feel safe, because everything comes back to feeling safe, feeling secure in that situation, whether it's dating or in a relationship. And thirdly, knowing what is unacceptable. These things are deal breakers, right? The deal is off if you break this. Deal breakers. What is unacceptable? What is unacceptable to me is cheating, abuse, physical, mental, spiritual, financial, any form of abuse is unacceptable. If I've just met somebody and they are showing me that they are abusive, their language, if I see that they've got a wandering eye, if I'm with them and they're flirting with other people, that's a deal breaker. That to me is unfreaking acceptable. And you do not have to wait until you get into a relationship with someone in order to see these red flags. And that's why when you're dating someone, you should be not drunk in love. You should be collecting data. You should be interviewing people. My antennas are so heightened right now that I only need to have one conversation with a person to know whether that person will be a great fit for me. Because one, I know myself. Two, I know what I want and what I need. And number three, I know it's unacceptable, right? So instead of going ahead and getting yourself into situations time and time again, how about you stop and think about your standards? Think about who the hell you are, think about what you want and need, and thinking about what is unacceptable. You must have deal breakers. Everything can't run and everything can't go. And if either one of these things, who you are, what you need, and what is unacceptable, is out of whack, you're going to find yourself in the same situation time and time again, settling for dusty men, allowing them in. In the last video, I used the analogy of I cannot control someone knocking at my door, but I can control whether I let them in, whether I let them sit on my couch, whether I let them eat my food. I don't have to let them in, even if they knock at my door. And that goes back to what I was saying. Sometimes as women, we may find ourselves in seasons of feeling lonely, feeling desperate, feeling like you just want a relationship and anyone will do, wanting companionship. So you just lower your standards. And I need you not to do that. I need you to start finding ways to combat those feelings, because what we have to understand is all of those things I've just mentioned are feelings. They're not facts. Nobody's ever alone. And even if you are lonely, there's other healthier ways to get those needs met and opening the door for a dusty guy that you know has no right to ever be in your space. And I want to kind of let you guys in on something that happens when a guy approaches you and you open the door, right? You got to think about it like this. Men, when they approach you, expect to be rejected, especially the ones that know that you are completely out of their league. But for whatever reason, you decide to not reject them, they're going to be shocked. Like, does she see herself? Does she see who she is? Does she see like who I am? But because of the reasons that I listed before, loneliness, low self-esteem, feeling unseen, etc., you're going to open the door. Like, this guy has already assessed that you are out of his league, and so he is shocked that you would even lower your standards to even let him in. And that's when the disrespect happens, because men don't know what to do with good things, especially when they know deep down they're not good, their intentions are not good, and they do not mean you any good. So I've spoken about standards. Now I want to talk to you guys about boundaries, okay? So the reason why people do not respect you is because you don't have any boundaries. And the reason why you don't have any boundaries is because you want to be liked. You want to be accepted. You don't want to be rejected. So you say to yourself, okay, if I don't have any boundaries, if I'm a yes person, if I allow that person to do whatever they want to do, then I won't be rejected. They'll accept me, they will like me, they will love me, because who's not going to love someone that's saying, yes sir, no sir, free bag, full sir? And for people like that, you are more concerned with being liked than actually protecting yourself, because that's what boundaries do. They protect you. If you want a visual and analogy of this, look at a neighborhood, right? A neighborhood, dividing each house is a fence. It's a boundary. It shows this is my house and this is your house. So my fences, my gates, they protect my property. If somebody came in that I did not allow, they would be called trespassers, right? So a lot of us who don't have boundaries, and I'm not sure if you've ever been in a community or houses that don't have gates, or they don't have fences, or don't have any fences, or they don't have strong fences, you will notice that a lot of, let's say, the litter in the street makes its way into that person's driveway because there's no fences, there's no protection keeping those things out. And ultimately, your boundaries are going to keep out a lot of trash, because don't feel bad that trash is coming to you. Trash is going to try. It's not a reflection of you. And that's one thing that we have to understand as well as women. If you're an attractive person, you're going to get a lot of attention. If you're average, you're going to get average attention, right? Once a month, once a week, whatever, right? But if you are getting a lot of the same thing, do not see that as a reflection of you. See that as, because you are attractive, a light. I've got a light in front of me. If this was outside and it was dark, there'll be a lot of flies attracted to that light because it is so bright. It's attractive. It's beautiful, right? To flies. So you're going to attract a lot of things, right? But just because you attract them does not mean you entertain them. And that is a big difference, okay? We do not entertain flies. We do not entertain trash. We do not entertain dogs. We keep our standards up. And I don't care if you tell me I'm bougie. I don't care if you tell me I'm stush. I don't even care if you call me ugly. I said no, I'm good. Like, we're good. I don't have to tell you in a mean way, but you need to respect that I said no, that this is not going to happen. So boundaries, when you have boundaries, you know how to speak up and to stick up for yourself. You don't care if someone's going to say, that person, she's not friendly, she's not this, she's not that, she's not that, she's not this. And a lot of male egos will be bruised when you tell them no, because men don't like rejection. They've been probably rejected all of their lives. It may trigger them to a moment when they was in high school and when their crush said no to them, and they may start to flare up and react and start manifesting, but that's not your problem. You have the right to say yes and to say no to whoever you choose to. You don't have to let everybody into your life, and you don't have to feel bad for saying no. You don't have to feel bad, even if it's a good guy, right? Even if the guy is a good guy, right? Someone that is noble, is godly or whatever, and you're not attracted to them, don't feel bad for not being attracted to them. I know that I'm not everybody's cup of tea. As many guys that are attracted to me, there are many more guys that aren't attracted to me, and I have to be okay with that. I'm not going to be everyone's cup of tea. Everybody gets rejected at the end of the day, because ultimately I'm not looking for a bag of man, I'm looking for one, and I'm sure he's not looking for a bag of girls, he's looking for one. So let's take away the offense of being rejected, because it just means that it's not a right fit, right? So if a guy comes up to you, he has on paper all the things, but you don't click with him, don't feel bad and don't feel like, okay, well, he's better than the last person. And I think what trips a lot of women up is that they're always saying that, well, this person is better than my ex, so you open the door. No, that's wrong, because your ex is not the standard. Clearly, he's not the standard, right? So just because you meet someone that is better than the last person that you was with does not mean that this person is best for you. And ultimately, we are trying to find the best person for us. So keep your boundaries, keep your standards, and keep them high. Another thing that goes against or makes people lower their standards is wanting to please. And I can say for me, in my last relationship, there were certain things I did not say. There were certain things I did not say no to, because I wanted to please that person. I wanted to be a good girlfriend. So instead of saying no or putting my foot down or speaking up for myself, I just was trying to please. And ultimately, in that trying to please, you're never going to be good enough, because you're never going to do enough, because you're not even respecting yourself. And one thing about men is that they actually respect a woman that says no to them. Men don't like easy. Men don't like easy women. If they're trying to smash, of course they like easy women. But men don't respect women that don't say no. You have to have a standard. You can't be so set on someone not rejecting you or someone staying with you that you reject all of your standards, because that's going to be detrimental in the end, because you're going to feel violated because I didn't have any standards, I didn't have any boundaries. And if you, let's say, back to the analogy of your house, when you don't have boundaries, like I remember in my childhood home, we used to have trouble with like people coming and sitting at the front of our house. Like we used to have a school at the end of our road, and it wasn't wasn't a gate. It was a bit of wall, and then driveway, and then obviously the neighbor, but it was a little bit of wall. So the children used to come home from school, and they used to like gather outside of my house, and they used to sit on the wall. Like, to me, that felt like a violation of our house. But could you blame them when we don't have a gate? There's no gate on there. There's no fence. It's just a little piece of, like, I don't know, rock, or not rock, but you know what I mean. They used to come and sit there. But the problem with not having boundaries is that you will end up feeling violated when you've let everybody in, when you've let everybody walk on all over you, when you've let this person do and say whatever they please. You're going to feel violated, and you're going to be actually very angry when that relationship ends, because ultimately the relationship is going to end because people don't respect people that don't have standards. People don't respect people that don't have boundaries, and that's just what it is. And so when you don't have boundaries, you are constantly bending to the desire of the other person, constantly bending to what they want, bending to their needs, as opposed to standing up straight. Like, no, this is who I am. This is what I want. This is what I accept. This is what I don't accept. Like it or leave it. And a person with boundaries, a person with standards, has no problem with leaving or being left. I think for women, we need to overcome the fear of being left, the fear of abandonment, because I think that's what keeps us in situations longer than we need to be. I want you guys to think of a woman in your life, whether someone that you know, someone that you see afar off, or someone that you don't even know, but you know that they have strong standards, strong boundaries, and they are very firm. Sometimes we may look at them like, oh my God, that person's never going to be in a relationship. That person's standards are so high, or that person is too rigid. But ultimately, you see them having every single thing that they want. I know one person in my life who I can say, like, she doesn't tolerate anything. We used to joke and say, who's going to marry this girl? And lo and behold, she's married and she's happy because she has standards, and she wasn't trying to let everybody in order to seem like a nice girl or good girl. No, you can be nice and have standards. We are more interested in being respected than we are with being liked. When we think of the word nice, what does nice mean? Nice doesn't mean anything. Nice is not even a real descriptive word. Nice just means that you let people walk all over you. When you describe a nice person, you're describing someone that they're non-threatening. They will do what you say. They're always ready to bend over backwards for you. Nice doesn't mean anything, and nice people get walked all over. However, people with standards and boundaries are respected even when they say no. Think about that person. Even when they say no, you're like, I gotta respect it. I might not like it, but I gotta respect it. So when you do not have the fear of being disliked, rejected, left, abandoned, you can really stand boldly in those boundaries. Again, I'll say what causes us to remove our boundaries, lower our standards, is a sense of rejection. So if we can get to the raw, underneath truth of that rejection, I like to say that person is not rejecting me. My destiny is rejecting them. Like, when something doesn't work out these days, especially with someone that I'm talking to, I do not trip. I see it as a blessing from God that this was not my person. This was not my husband. And this was actually a protection for me. I will never feel crushed. I may feel hurt, may feel disappointed, but I'll never feel crushed if someone decides to leave me, decides to reject me. I understand that my destiny is so important, that my destiny is rejecting that person, and in turn, they're rejecting me. So yeah, hear me well. It's impossible for a people pleaser to have standards and to have boundaries, because a people pleaser is more concerned with being liked than they are with being respected. And you can think of a people pleaser in your life, right? Yeah, you like them. They're nice. Like, they'll be there for you. They'll do what you say that you want them to do. They'll drop everything and come and run to your rescue. They rarely get angry. You rarely hear the word no from them. To summarize, you know, even though it's not right, you know that you can push your luck with them. The problem is, though, subconsciously, you start to lose respect for that person. You lose respect for someone that will drop everything at all times for you, because there's nothing wrong with people that drop what they're doing for you. But all the damn time, that person never tells you no. Like, secretly, you start losing respect for them. Because truthfully, as humans, we respect things that have boundaries and we respect things that have limits. Let me use an analogy for you guys, okay? You go into a Louis Vuitton store, right? The ambience is just right, the music is nice, everything is clean, they've got the bag positioned exactly where they want them to. There's probably going to be about 4 or 5 people max in the store, including you. There's going to be about 1 or 2 security guards at the door. The ambience is very mellow, it's very low, it screams luxury. When you pick up a bag or a shoe, you pick it up with care, you look at it, you look at the price, you handle it so carefully. Oh, okay, a bit too much, but you're going to put that back respectfully. Even if it's too much, you're going to put it back respectfully. Why? Because that item has value. You're going to handle it accordingly. Alternatively, you go into a Primark if you're in Europe, or a Target if you're in the States, and you see a bag. These bags are probably made in the same factory as the one in Louis Vuitton. But anyway, you go there and these bags are cheap. There's multiple bags out. The store is noisy. There's multiple people around. There's no ambience. You're one of many. There's tussling. So there's bags. There's loads and loads of bags. There's not just one on display. You're picking up the bag. You're flinging it over your shoulder. You're checking out in the mirror. You're manhandling the bag. You go and you're like, oh, $10. You don't respect that bag. Picking it up, you're throwing it down. It's the same item, right? It's a bag, right? But you've had 2 different experiences at the 2 different stores. So what stopped you from treating the Louis Vuitton bag like the Primark bag or the Target bag? Number 1, value. Your perceived, so the value of the Louis Vuitton bag, anywhere from £1,000 to £3,000, right? It's got value. The one at Target, anywhere from £5 to £25 max. The bag that we consider valuable and the bag that we consider unvaluable, we treat them differently. Secondly, your experience, right? You go into Louis Vuitton store, there's a standard there. You know you can't be picking up the bag and dropping it and treating it like you're in Primark. You'll get escorted out that store pronto. There's a standard at Louis Vuitton. There's not really a standard at Target or Primark. You can pick up bags, take off shirts off the rail, pick them all out, dash them back. There's no standard in these stores. So you treat them accordingly. Another thing, the atmosphere, right? The atmosphere is peaceful, right? The atmosphere screams luxury. You go to Target, you go to Primark, there's an atmosphere, but meh, the workers are working, nobody's really looking at you. In a Louis Vuitton store, you feel like you're stealing something whenever you go in there because there's a lot of attention on you because you're one of 4 people in the store. However, Primark, no one can see. You can even start stealing the stuff because no one's on your back like that, right? Lastly, boundaries and the standards that they have. You go into some designer stores, the bags are locked in compartments. They're not even just out on display. Especially the really expensive ones, they're not going to put them out on display. So they have boundaries. So you operate with those bags, those shoes, those scarves differently than the ones that are just on display or hung up in Primark or Target, right? So value, atmosphere, experience, boundaries. These are all ways that people experience you. When people experience you, do they experience you as a Target or do they experience you as a Louis Vuitton store? Because this is real, right? And the thing is, we have the power to present however we want. Do you present as your Target or Primark or do you present as your Louis Vuitton? And the only real difference is I understand my value. I'm not cheap. I'm very expensive. Right? This is beyond my physical appearance. This is my mind. This is my internal worth. This is my love. This is my kindness. This is my gentleness. This is my spirit. This is my soul. This is how I treat people. This is all my value. My value. I'm very expensive, dear. I'm very expensive. So when you come to me come correct, because I'm very expensive there. So what are you? Are you Target? Are you Primark? Or are you Louis Vuitton? Are you Chanel? You have to make that up in your mind and decide today, because people will treat you accordingly. So people can't just come into my life talking rubbish, treating me anyhow, violating my trust. It's 3 strikes and you're out. I don't waste time. I don't care if I don't have any friends. It's 3 strikes and you're out. I do not care. I'm less tolerable in romantic relationships than I am in friendships. I give my friends three chances. I'll give a guy 1, 2 max. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. So you have to decide that today I'm going to be a Louis Vuitton store and I'm going to put the necessary boundaries around me. And yes, it might make me lonely. When you go to these designer stores, you go to the strips, you go to these places, there's not a lot of people in there. There's not a lot of people in these stores because they're looking for quality over quantity. They don't care about the quality of their customers. They just care that there's customers in these stores. They have a completely, totally different ethos than the Louis Vuitton store. The Louis Vuitton store does not care that there's only 5 people in their store at a time because they're looking for quality over quantity. And that's what you need to look for in your life, whether that's friends, family, or relationships, dating. Look for quality over quantity. Just because there's a lot of men chasing this girl down does not mean that there's quality there. That just means that her standards are so low that she'll accept anybody. Raise your standard to the standard of where you are at. Raise your standard to the level of your value. People will respect what you respect. There's no getting around this. People will respect what you respect at the end of the day. And if you, and this is why I don't really agree with the whole rating system, right? You will get what you believe. If you believe you're a 7, you act like a 7, you'll get your equal. If you believe you're a 9 or a 10, you act like a 9, you behave like a 9, you will get your 9, right? So there's people that are deeply valuable, that are worth it, that have low self-esteem because they don't believe it. They don't believe that they're worth what they're worth. So they always get low because their bar is so low. So finally, I want to say what boundaries are so you can establish your own boundaries. It's hard for me to tell you what your boundaries should be or what your boundaries are because I'm not you and you're not me. I would suggest that we all have higher standards when it comes to romantic relationships, who we let in. Number 1, boundaries are clear. I wish I could physically have something that I could define as a boundary in this house. Yo, it is so hot. I'm sweating. Guys, I'm recording this video because I love you, because what the hell? So boundaries are clear. When you see a boundary in a road, you know that you can drive here or you can't drive here. Boundaries are clear, okay? And when you're enforcing your boundaries, you need to enforce it with a straight face. Like, you actually take your own boundary serious. There's nothing worse than a girl acting like, oh no, I don't, no, don't talk to me like that. There's nothing worse than sending mixed messages when you're trying to enforce a boundary. Do you have a boundary or are you pretending to have a boundary? And you need to say it with a straight face, and it needs to be serious and it needs to be clear. Again, boundaries are confident. They don't shake. They don't move. We've all been to a club where there's a bounce on the door that is not moving. Have your ID. Where is your ID? If you're wearing trainers, you're not getting in. These boundaries are clear and concise. That's how you need to be with yours. You need to be confident. Let your voice not be shaking when you're enforcing your boundaries. Don't let your voice shake. Be firm in them. And one thing that you need to do is practice saying no. Practice rejecting, especially for my people pleasers. Practice rejecting. Guys, you have to. It doesn't make you a bad person to reject someone. No is a complete sentence, period. And so is period. So boundaries are clear and they are confident. So that's it for today's video. I hope you have understood why it's important to have standards, how to have rock solid standards and boundaries, and to enforce them. Like I said, what gets in the way of us not having those standards is our own emotions. And I feel that the difference between men and women is that men are ruled by principles. That's why they won't take back a girl woman that's cheated, because it's their principle, right? And I think a lot of women, we have to become principled in our beliefs, in our morals, in our standards, in our boundaries. We need to become principled. It needs to be so ingrained in us that we just don't tolerate dust. We don't. We pay dust. Like, if I'm walking down the street, certain guys, even if they call me, I don't give them a time of day. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. But if you're riding down the road and a guy beeps his horn at you or someone whistles at you, you're quick to turn your head. Don't do that. If someone catcalls you, don't turn your head because you're not talking to me, baby. you are not talking to me. You're not whistling at me. Do I look like a dog? Don't whistle at me. That's it for today's video. Don't forget to give us a like, thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and I shall see you guys in my next video. Bye guys.